everybody, this is Liz Marchio, the Citizen Science Coordinator at Barataria Preserve. Now today what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at the crawfish. Now we're going to take a look at the external parts of the crawfish, which are the outside parts, and we're also going to use some scissors. We're going to cut open the crawfish and see what's inside. Now the reason we're going to do this lab is because in southeastern Louisiana we are very fond of crawfish. For one, they're an iconic species here, and they are also a source of food. So since we eat crawfish, it's good to know what we're eating. So we're going to go over the edible parts and the non-edible parts. So come on and join me. What we're going to do is we're going to dissect a crawfish. Crawfish are called arthropods. What an arthropod is a creature that has jointed feet. So arthro means jointed, pod means foot. So arthropod means jointed feet. And you can see these legs here, these are the walking legs. These legs are indicative of why these are called arthropods. So they have a joint in the leg structure and little pinchers on the ends of their little walking legs. That helps them move around the substrate, grab onto things and pull themselves along. They also have very large front claws. The front claws are used for protection, and they are also used to get food. This one happens to be a male, and you can tell the male from the female, for one, because of the size difference. So the male is much larger, the female is a little smaller. The males also have much larger front defensive arms, the claws. So you can see he's much larger here, and the males do this because they want to get the attention of the females and also protect an area so that they can get more females and basically reproduce and create more babies. So these are important structures for an adult male crayfish or crawfish. So these are two crawfish, female and male, and we'll go over the different structures that make them female and male as well. It's not just what they look like on the outside. What I also did is I brought in a lobster. This is a lobster that's been cooked and ready to eat. This is also an arthropod. So we got these jointed legs, these jointed appendages. And so what we end up doing when we eat arthropods like crawfish or lobsters is that we eat the musculature inside. So maybe we'll take off one of these claws and open it up and eat the muscle, because the muscle is where the protein is, and that's where the most edible part of an arthropod is. This other part, this hard structure here, this is actually called an exoskeleton, E-X-O. Skeleton. Exo means external, so these creatures have an external skeleton. They also have different parts of their exoskeleton. They have an abdomen, which is this part here, the tail, and they have a cephalothorax, this part here from the head, I guess you can call that a nose, to this part where the tail meets. This is called a cephalothorax. Cephalo means head. So here's the cephalo part. This is the head part, and this is the thorax. On crawfish and on these particular arthropods, these are fused. So we got the head and the thorax fused together. You can still see the line right here. Head, thorax, abdomen, but since these are fused together, we call it a head abdomen or a head thorax or a cephalothorax, and this is the abdomen, okay? These little stringy things on the front are antennae. These are sensory organs, so these help the crawfish sense the environment. And they push these out ahead of them to feel around and sense food. They have several pairs. So they have a large main pair and they have a paired second pair. So if you count them, you got 6 antennae coming out from the front of the crawfish. The female is similar, pretty much the same. 2 long antennae 4 short ones that are paired together. They split off. Same with the female. Antennae help her look around and sense her environment. The eyes also do as well. They're part of the sensory part of the crawfish. The eyes see. These will feel as well as probably have some taste reception. And the swimming legs and the defensive legs also help feel around the environment. Now if we look at the lobster, we see a very similar thing going on. We have these long antennae. We have shorter paired antennae here on the front, again for sensory. We got eyes. Above the eye we have this structure here. It's a defensive structure. It protects the eyes. I also brought a shrimp in because a shrimp is also a arthropod. How do you know? Arthro means jointed, pod means leg, and we have jointed legs. Very similar. Head, thorax, remember, cephalothorax. Abdomen, which is the tail region, which is usually what we end up eating. And shrimp, when they are not alive, they stay in this bent posture. Same with crawfish. When they are cooked, this was not a cooked individual, so his tail is straight. Otherwise, it usually would be curled up, at least when they pass away. So you can see shrimp, very similar. We got the walking legs, cephalothorax, abdomen. And we haven't talked about these yet. These are called swimming appendages or swimming legs. And they're on the abdomen. They're paired, which means there's one on each side, like a left and a right, left and right, left and right. And these appendages help the creature swim. So here's our shrimp. It can swim along using the musculature in the abdomen, because the muscles help body parts move. So this musculature in the abdomen help the swimmerets. And a swimmerette is what it sounds like. It's a small appendage that helps it swim. On our crawfish, the swimmerets are on the abdomen. So here's our abdomen or the tail. The swimmerets are these structures here. A little different than the shrimp, less feathery. Now why would that be? So a shrimp is more pelagic. That means it swims through the water column. Crawfish are benthic. Benthic means that they stay on the bottom or on the dirt on the bottom of the water and they crawl along. So these swimmerets are reduced because they don't swim nearly as much. On a shrimp, the swimmerets are much broader because they're used more for swimming. Our female crawfish also has swimmerets. Same thing, paired like the walking legs, left and right. So we got the swimming legs, walking legs, our defensive legs, or the claws. The claws have a special name called a cleiped. So these are the cleipeds. Remember, ped or pod means foot or leg. So these are still foots or legs, feet or legs. I guess you can call them arms. They're still an appendage that helps with movement. Cleiped. Walking legs, swimmerets. Our lobster also has swimmerets. You can see this creature was cooked to be eaten. So his tail has been curled in. Now the tail curling in is more than likely due to the heat hitting the musculature in the tail and it causing it to curl. So if we uncurl it, we can see very large swimmerets here. again, paired. So there's a right and a left, right and left, right and left. Now these swimmerets here, this is the first pair right after the walking legs. Here on the crawfish, the first pair of swimmerets are right here. On the female crawfish, the first pair are kind of flimsy, thread-like. On the male, they're much stronger and tubular. So this tubular strength is actually part of what makes a male crawfish a male crawfish. Female crawfish don't have first swimmerets that are really chitinous or calcium-based, that are hard. These are soft. So when you're eating a crawfish, if you want to know if you're eating a boy or a girl crawfish, just flip it over, take a look and see if it has these really thickened first swimmerets. If it does, then that's a male. If it does not, then that's a female. Now, looking at the claws is an easier way to tell if it's a male or a female. But arthropods are able to regrow legs if they lose them, and that includes the cleopeds, which are the little, well, I guess not so little, rather large arms with the claws. So, take a look, and that's our difference between male and female. Larger cleopeds, but sometimes crawfish maybe they'll get in a fight with each other, and sometimes they lose one of these, and when they start growing back, maybe they'll look more like a female because they're a little bit smaller. So if we base things on size, we can get it wrong. So we want to try to look at the actual reproductive structures, and those are our swimmerets. So why the swimmerets? Why are the swimmerets different? Well, these creatures do not have internal fertilization like a human, so a mom human would carry her babies inside of her. These creatures do not do that. The male will give sperm to the female using these swimmerets. She will hold the sperm until she's ready with her eggs, and then she lays her eggs and places them with a sticky substance on her swimmerets, and then she holds this abdomen close to her body, sometimes even curled up, and then she protects the eggs. So it might look like she's pregnant, but she's externally pregnant because the eggs will be stuck right here, and then she holds on to them and cares for them. So the male uses these first swimmerets to reproduce with the female. So next we'll take a look inside. Well, what we'll do first is we'll check out the digestive system. Now the digestive system is how the organism gets energy by eating and then going to the restroom. Same with us, we eat and go to the bathroom. So we want to look at the digestive system, how these guys do it. We'll take a look at the male. Now if we look into the head structure, we can find the mouth. It's pretty far down. So the mouth would be right down here. And then if we follow this line all the way down to the tail, there's a little hole here. This right here, this is the anus, where the poop comes out. So mouth eats the food, goes through the digestive system, and then comes out here. Same with the female. Grabs food, puts it into the mouth. The digestive system is in the cephalothorax region, which we'll take a look at. Goes through the intestine, which you can see here, this dark line, and it comes out, the waste comes out the anus, which is here. It's actually very easy to see. Just a little slit, and that's where the waste comes out. That's how they use the bathroom. All right, so what we're gonna do is take a look inside and we'll cut from the back end, which is called the posterior end, towards the head. And when you're doing a dissection, that part is called anterior. Posterior, tail, anterior, head region. Posterior, anterior. And you'll notice too that I am cutting on the back of the crawfish. When you do a dissection where you're talking about anatomy and you're trying to explain it, this is called the dorsal side of the crawfish. If you are familiar with fish, fish have a fin on their back. It's called a dorsal fin. That's how I remember what side is dorsal. It's on the back. So this is the dorsal side of the crawfish. This side is the bottom side, or the ventral side. Ventral. Ventral can sometimes be referring to the vent or the anus or the waste receptacle, wherever the waste comes out. So ventral usually means like the bottom part, probably where the waste is going to be. Okay, so we've cut through the abdomen, our tail. We've cut through the thorax and through the head, which is our cephalothorax. So we'll go ahead and open her up slowly. Now maybe you're wondering where I even got these crawfish from. These crawfish are from a scientific company that puts these creatures in formaldehyde. So right now you're missing a lot of smelly smell of formaldehyde. And then they sell these creatures specifically for science labs. So this is not a creature that I caught from the bayou. This is one that I purchased specifically so that we could take a look inside. Now, if I caught crawfish from the bayou at Barataria Preserve, what I would find is very, very teeny crawfish. I'll show you. So I caught some of these today. And you can see they are not the same size as the crawfish we're working on today. Here's one. Very small. So this is what you would catch here at Barataria. You can see the difference. Now, some of these little teeny crawfish that I have in my hand right here, some of these are babies and they'll get bigger, but they usually only get about this big. So it's still a small species. This one is actually a female. If I turn her upside down, she's not happy. You can see her tail is pulled in, and that's because she's holding eggs. She's not gonna be real thrilled with me doing this. So she's got eggs down there, she's holding them under her tail. Now, why does she do that? Because that's where the most protection can come from. She's protecting the eggs with her tail, and you can see she's using her claws to defend herself. And she's trying, didn't get my nail. Now, when you bring a crawfish out of the water, they don't tend to do very well for very long, and that's because on the inside of that cephalothorax, those are gills in there. And what do gills do? Gills help creatures breathe underwater. So we'll put her in the water. There we go. We'll take a look at our male crawfish, and since we opened up the thorax and the head, the cephalothorax region, we'll go ahead and take a look at the gills. So here, these feathery looking things, these are gills. These creatures live underwater, so lungs don't do them any good, because lungs are good for air, like terrestrial air, not air that's dissolved in water. These guys breathe dissolved oxygen, so oxygen that's been dissolved in the water. The gills will remove the oxygen out of the water and use it to breathe. So here's our gill structure on this side. And then we have gills on the other side. So why might these feathery, delicate gills be underneath the exoskeleton? Pretty simple. The exoskeleton is protective. The gills need protection, so they're underneath this really hard exoskeleton. The gills are also paired with the walking legs. So here's a walking leg, and it has a gill paired to it, which I might have removed accidentally. And here's another walking leg, and here's the gills that are paired to that. Here's another walking leg, another set of gills, another walking leg, another set of gills, another walking leg, and another set of gills. And it looks like we have a set of gills also with the cleipeds, or the claws. So the gills are paired with the walking legs because these creatures, as they walk along, they're able to move water through the gills. So they're using their legs to walk, and as they're walking, the gills are getting oxygen. So it's a pretty good system. You can get oxygen just by walking. So here's our gill structures. All right, what else we got going on in here? You can see this cream colored stuff here. Let's get a closer look. Now, dissecting things isn't, well, it's kind of fun because you get to explore and learn and see things you didn't know before. It can also be a little challenging because these were live creatures at one point. But we want to make sure that we respect them when we're in the lab, because this creature gave its life for us to learn. So we want to get as much learning out of their lives as possible. Okay, so what we have going on here, these thread-like structures that are attached to the exoskeleton, but they're like in a bundle, that's muscle. There we go. So this muscle, you can see it's attached to the exoskeleton. So we got some musculature in here. This here, let's see if we can find the heart. Oh, here's the heart. So the heart is kind of triangular looking, and it has holes in it for pumping blood. So there's a hole right here and a hole right there, and this is the heart. Now let's take the heart out. So the heart is a muscle, and this muscle pumps blood. In our heart and our body, the heart is closed, so the blood stays in it, and it pumps the blood kind of like a balloon. This is a little different. This hole on the side, these two holes on the sides, it's where the blood comes into the heart. So this creature has an open circulatory system. It means the blood is all throughout the body, and then the heart pumps it through. Our system is a closed circulatory system, so the blood runs through tubes in our body. This is a little different. So the heart is much different looking than our heart. So we found the heart. Let's see. We got these yellowish granular gland here. This is a gland. The granularness of it kind of tells us it's a gland. And this is called the digestive gland. So this is part of the digestive system. The gland helps the creature digest its food, breaks it down. So what we're also seeing in the cephalothorax here is the stomach. So this part right here, you maybe would think this is the brain. It is the stomach. The brain is very, 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 very small. So we're gonna take the stomach out. There's our stomach, and I can feel it's really kind of tough in there. So we're gonna take a look inside. Oh yeah. So this is the stomach, and inside the stomach there are teeth. I'll be honest, this is pretty gross. So inside the stomach here are teeth. This tough part that's brown that has these little nodules on it, those are the teeth. So the teeth are used to break down the food so it can go through the system, through the digestive system. So crawfish do have teeth, they're just inside the stomach. All right, brain is up here, very hard to see, very, very small. And it has these nerves that go to it. So if you follow these two nerves, oops, that I just broke, they go up to the brain. The nerves also are a part of the nerve system, the nervous system that go through the cephalothorax into the abdomen. We also have these two large glands. Here's one, and here's another one, and it's in the cephalothorax, it was right underneath the stomach. And these are called green glands, although they're not really green. And these glands are kidney-like in function, so they help make sure that there's no poisons in the body or anything like that. They help make sure everything's clean. So these are like kidneys for crawfish, called the green gland. All right, and we got more and more of this digestive gland. Now I'm going to tell you something a little gross. This digestive gland is what you eat when you suck the head. So if you're eating crawfish and you take the tail off, you eat the tail meat, and you turn around and suck this part, the cephalothorax, what you're sucking out is the delicious digestive gland. And of course right now it is not delicious, but when it is cooked, it's not bad. Okay. So let's move on to the tail region, or the abdomen. We'll use our scissors. Oh, we already cut it, so we don't need to use them. So let's open up the tail. Trying to be careful. So when I cut the tail region, you saw I was cutting very shallow. So I'd use my scissors and cut shallow just so I can get the exoskeleton cut, because I knew I wanted to make sure that what is underneath the exoskeleton I wanted to keep intact to show you. So here we're opening up the abdomen, and what are we seeing? We're seeing a few things. We see this line right here running through the dorsal, remember, back side of the abdomen. You can follow it. It keeps going. All right, and then it stops because I took the stomach out. It was attached to the stomach. So this is part of the digestive system. This line that goes through the tail. So this is the intestine. And I'm pulling the intestine out, and you can, if you follow it, it'll take you down to the anus, and that shows you from mouth through the digestive system, and then the waste goes to the tail. All right, so now we found the meat part of the crawfish, the edible part that we like to eat. And we've pulled out the intestine. So now we can see all this musculature. So it's very muscular. It's probably, most definitely, a place that has the most musculature. And remember, we want to think about why does a crawfish have a bunch of muscle in its tail? It's because that's how they move and they swim. So wherever there's a lot of movement involved is going to have a lot of musculature. Okay, so there's the piece of meat. And I mean, if I got this out of a crawfish at a crawfish boil, I'd be pretty happy. Although this is in formaldehyde, so it smells terrible and it would not be edible. But this is the piece of meat that you end up eating when you do crawfish boil. When you suck the head, you're eating the digestive gland. Remember, we have the green gland, which are like the kidneys. The digestive system, which includes the intestine. We got our gills, remember our gills? And those are paired with our walking legs. Swimmerets, male and female, they're different. Cleopeds, which are the claws. Cleoped. So we can open up a claw. Claw is also where a lot of meat is, or musculature, because it's a very strong body part. So sometimes you can pull the claw out and there'll be muscle here attached. This muscle open and closes the claw. And since this is a defensive structure, they want to have a lot of power in it. There's a lot of musculature in here. Ooh, it's hard. So we see some muscle already. And remember, the muscle can be attached to that exoskeleton, making it really difficult to remove. So I've removed the exoskeleton from the claw, and we can see this muscle here, very big, not as large as the tail muscle. You can see this is a very important structure for the organism because it has a lot of muscle in it. There we go, our crawfish dissection.